Okay, so we are finishing the Chumash of Shemot on the last parashat, Parashat Pikude. As I said previous weeks, usually these parashiot at the end of the book of Shemot, we read them by pairs. Usually Pikude is by Akel Pikude, it goes together. And this year, because we have Adar Aleph and Adar Bet, every parasha got her own Shabbat. So it's not a long parasha, it's a short parasha. And the book of Shemot ends in a very, in a celebratory tone, because finally, after having received all the directions to build the different items in the Mishkan, the clothing of the Kohen, in this parasha, Parashat Pikude, we are told of how Moshe Rabbeinu does it exactly as Hashem has, as Hashem has commanded him. Okay. Everybody has it open? What page is it? Okay. The first aliyah in Parashat Pikude, we are told, I don't think we're going to read all the parasha, it's pretty technical. You can follow it on the Beta Knesset. On the first parasha, we get a complete account of all the materials that Benet Israel have brought for the Mishkan. You remember in Parashat Terumah, Parashat Vayakhel, that Hashem told Moshe to ask Bnei Israel, V'chol ish asher yerdevenu libo, that every person should give whatever they want. And we saw that they were so generous, they were pouring with materials, bringing gold and silver and everything that Hashem requested, to the point that Betzalel and Aholiab and the men craftsmen, those that were in charge of doing the different utensils, they came to Moshe and they said, we have more than enough. And Moshe had to stop the people. Stop! We said this is the dream of every fundraising event. Imagine you have to say, stop, don't bring any more. So here in our parasha, what's happening is that Moshe Rabbeinu, in the Torah, is bringing an exact account on how much was brought, how much gold, how much silver, how much copper, and for what was it used. I'm going to read just a little bit so you get the feeling of what is our parasha about. Look, these are page 531. These are the reckonings of the tabernacle of testimony, which were reckoned at Moshe's bidding. The labor of the Levites was under the authority of Itamar, son of Aaron the Kohen. Betzalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, did everything that Hashem commanded Moshe. With him was Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, a carver, weaver, and embroiderer with turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool, and with linen. All the gold that was used for the work, for all the holy work, the offered up gold was 29 talents and 730 shekels in the sacred shekel. And then it goes to the silver. The silver of the census of the community was 100 talents, 1,775 shekels in the sacred shekel, a beka for every head, because the silver, the way that it was gathered was through, you remember? Machatzit ha-shekel, the half of the shekel that was taken from every person, and in that way they were counted. For everyone who passed through the census taker from 20 years of age and up, for the 603,550, the 100 talents of silver were to cast the sockets of the sanctuary and the sockets of the partition. 100 sockets. You understand it's very technical, right? And we get a little bit even bored to read all of this, but it is interesting to note and to ask ourselves, why it was necessary. Why do we get such a detailed account of how much was the weight of the gold, the weight of the silver, the weight of the copper? Why was it necessary? To show that what? To show that Moshe and Bezalel or anybody involved in the building of the Mishkan did not take any benefit from what was given. So why would we suspect from Moshe? Is that possible to suspect that Moshe would take anything for himself? What do you think? He's teaching us, and Stella is right. We have midrashim. It's not literally written in the Torah, but we have midrashim that tell us and share with us that actually Bnei Israel were pretty much suspicious. They didn't really, as much as Moshe was a tzaddik and totally devoted to them, was even willing to give his life for them. Like all his existence was for the benefit of Am Israel, to the point that he tells Hashem, if you are going to take these people, take me out. I have nothing to do here if it's not to serve Am Israel. So look what the Midrash tell us. This is Midrash Tanhuma. These are the accounts of the tabernacle as they were rendered according to the commandment of Moshe. Why did he render account? Why did Moshe feel that he needed to really make the exact account of exactly how much was used for the Mishkan? The Holy One, blessed be, trusted him, as it is stated. He is trusted in all my house. Ne'eman, Moshe Abdi, in my house. Like Hashem says about Moshe, Ne'eman hu bechol beti. I trust him. Notwithstanding, nevertheless, Moshe rendered account. Why was that? Look what the Midrash tells us. It's impossible to believe, but this is what the Midrash tells us. This was because the scorners of his time gossiped regarding him. There is always people that will find the opportunity to talk. What would they say? As it is stated, and it came to pass, when Moshe went out into the tent, that all the people rose up and stood, every man at his tent door, and looked after Moshe. What did they say? They looked at his back and said to one another, look at him. What a neck, like fat neck. What a neck. What legs. He's strong. You look at him. Look at the color of his face. You can see that he eats well. He eats of what which is ours and drinks of that which is ours. His fellow would reply, fool, a man who is in charge of the work of the tabernacle, talents of silver, talents of gold, uncounted, unweighted, and unnumbered. What else do you expect? Don't you see all the gifts that we're giving non-stop? Silver, gold, copper. What else do you expect? That he should not be rich? When Moshe heard this, he said, by your lives, as soon as the work of the tabernacle is finished, I shall render them an account. As soon as it was finished, he said to them, these are the accounts of the tabernacle to the detail. Exactly, I was paying attention when I read about the how you say, the silver. The numbers are very much, is not rounded numbers. It is 1,775 shekels. We could have said around the 1,700, but exactly the 5 shekels are also counted there. Now, a question about the Midrash. Do you know what is a Midrash? What does it mean? What does it mean? What the Midrash just told us, that people were talking behind his back, that he was fat, that he was taking. What does it mean? Is it literal? Is the Midrash to be understood literally? What is the Midrash telling us? this was a possibility. Perhaps Moshe had the feeling. Perhaps it was the way people were looking at him. Where did we see that part of Am Israel, of Bnei Israel, blamed Moshe of taking advantage of his position? In Korach, that was a relative of Moshe. We will see that later on in Parashat, in the book of Bamidbar. Korach comes and says about Moshe, why do you take all the power to yourself and to your family? And he brought so many stories to Am Israel, telling them, you see, he's just taking advantage of you. So it's possible. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us, and he says this, I don't know if you remember, whenever they are about to go to Eretz Israel, there are two tribes of Gad and Reuven, and they have a tribe of Menashe, that they want to stay Me'ever HaYarden. They don't want to cross the Jordan and go to Israel. They like the land there. So Moshe Rabbeinu is very upset at them. Why do you do that? You are demoralizing the people. Everybody's going to be afraid now to conquer. It's similar to what the Meraglim did. That when the spy says, no, we don't want to go to the land. But they say, no, we are going to come with the people and fight with them and help them in the conquer. And Moshe tells them there a very important sentence. He says, okay, do that, v'item nekiim me'Hashem u'mi'Yisrael. Do that, and then you will be clean in front of Hashem and in front of Israel. So as I don't remember who said it here, to teach us. This is brought in this parasha to teach us how important it is to care also about what others can think. Like imagine you have a position of leadership, you are somebody on the board of a community, or you are a rabbi, or you manage the tzedakah funds of a community. And you can say, I'm honest, Hashem knows that. I don't care what people will say. They can think whatever they want. I take the kupat tzedakah to my house, I bring it back, I will never touch $1. Hashem knows. That's not enough. It's important that you act in ways that everybody will be with that confidence that you are an honest person, especially when you are involved in community funds. That's very, very, very important. Another thing that we see, and we spoke a little bit last week in Parashat Vayakhel, is, you remember we made a comparison between Parashat Vayakhel and Parashat Ki Tisa and Parashat Vayakhel. Parashat Ki Tisa was about Am Israel coming and giving from their jewelry for the golden calf, in the Ki Tisa, for Avodah Zarah. And in Parashat Vayakhel, we see Am Israel coming with generosity to give for the Mishkan. So in the Talmud, our rabbis say, how generous is Am Israel? But sometimes they kind of don't even think, what is the money for? It's totally opposite to that prejudice that exists against the Jews, that the Jews are stingy. It's quite the opposite. And actually, you can check any hospital, any museum, any place that they have in the world, the donors, you will for sure see Jewish names there. Generosity is part of our DNA. Rambam in Mishneh Torah, I think it's called Masechet, let me see if I have it written here, just to give you the right source. Hilchot Aniyim, he says, we have never seen or heard of a Jewish community that does not have a fund for tzedakah. That doesn't exist. For us to be a Jew means to care for others, to give to others, to be generous with what Hashem gave me for any good cause. And it says we have to be more scrupulous with the mitzvah of tzedakah, more careful and scrupulous with the mitzvah of tzedakah than with any other commandment. That's what the Rambam says in Mishneh Torah in Hilchot Aniyim. He says, why? Because this is who we are. When Hashem says about Abraham Avinu that Ki yeda'ativ, I know him, that's why I choose him, I love him. Ki yeda'ativ leman asher yetzaveh et banav la'asot tzedakah u'mishpat, because I know that he's going to command his children to do tzedakah and mishpat. I know what's going to be the pattern in the Jewish nation, in the Jewish people, that we are people of tzedakah, of generosity, of caring for others. Okay, so this is in regards of something else that Nechama Leibovich bring on his book, very interesting in regards to being transparent, in regards to being careful about what others will think about you. It says like this. This is in the Talmud, and it's examples of how public servants have to keep themselves about any suspicion. So it says, Bet Garmu Ayubekiim Bemaase Lechem Apanim. There was a family, they were called the House of Garmu, that was their name, and they were the experts in the making of the show bread. What is the show bread? In the Mishkan, we had the utensil, we had the menorah, we have the mizbeach, we had the aron habrit, and we had the shulchan, the table where we had 12 breads that the Kohanim had to put there once a week. It was, and then after the week was passed, they would eat those bread and put other 12 breads there. So the family of Garmu were the experts on making those breads. They had a special recipe. But never was fine bread found in the hands of their children. Lest people should say, they grow fat from the preparation of the showbread. As it is stated, you shall be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel. Why? I suppose that this family would get the flour from the funds of the Mishkan, of the Bet HaMikdash. So you take the flour, you bring it home, you prepare the bread, and you bring it to the Bet HaMikdash. So now, if they see that your children are having cookies and cakes with white fine flour that at that time perhaps wasn't so common, they would say, they are using the flour from the Mishkan. Lucky them that they have that position. It's like you have somebody that because he works, I don't know, give me an example of office that provides for you some goods. Anything? Oh, a catering at all, you have all the time food at home. Usually they give it to you, but something that is not given and you take it for yourself. So that's actually creating suspicious. Okay, another example that the Talmud brings, Tanu Rabbanan, Bet Avtinas Ayu Bekiim B'Maaseh Ketoret. There was another family in the times of the Bet HaMikdash, and they were called the House of Avtinas. They were expert in preparing the incense. What is the incense? Is one of the elements that was supposed to be in the Bet HaMikdash, in the Mishkan as well. All the time, on a daily basis, it was composed with the spices. You know, the ketoret is the several spices that they would make like an incense to have this special aroma or smell in the Mishkan. But this family that were the experts on preparing this combination of spices, they never did a bride of theirs go forth perfumed. Whenever they had a bride, they would not let her be perfumed. Why? When they married outside the family, they would make a condition that the bride should not use perfume, lest people should say. They perfume themselves with the incense preparations. Again, Vitem Nekiim Me'Hashem U'Me'Israel. One more example. אין התורם את הלשכה נכנס לא בפרגות הפת ולא במנהל. There was a place in the Bet HaMikdash where people would enter there and give tzedakah. So he that went up or also would take money from there to do the offering. There was a lishka. Imagine there is a room where the funds were prepared there for certain korbanot. So he that went up to take an offering from the shekel chamber did not wear a sleeved cloak or shoes or sandals. You couldn't go inside with any clothes that had like very wide sleeves or pockets or even shoes. Why? Lest he became rich later on. Imagine next week, you are in your business, you make a very good transaction, and suddenly you multiply your assets. what would people say about him? Less if he became rich, they would say, aha, he became rich from the offerings taken out of the shekel chamber. For a man must satisfy people even as he must satisfy Hashem. We have to care about what people will say the same way we care about what Hashem says. Okay, this is about this. And I'm going to jump, again, the parasha will speak about the clothing of the Kohanim, how everything was done according to the assignments, the Choshen HaMishpat, the ephod. We saw that in the previous parashiot, the tzitz, all the 4 garments of the regular Kohanim, and everything was done according to how Hashem instructed. Now, on the 5th Aliyah, go to Aliyah Hamishit. Aliyah Hamishit is on page 537. Okay? This is the end of the book of Shemot. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, on the day of the first new moon, on the first of the month, you shall erect the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. There you shall place the ark of testimony and screen the ark with the partition. You shall bring the table and prepare its setting. Bring the menorah and kindle its lamp. You shall place the gold altar for incense in the front of the ark of testimony and emplace the curtain of the entrance of the tabernacle. You shall place the elevation offering altar in front of the entrance of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. You shall place the laver between the tent of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water there. You shall emplace the courtyard all around and emplace the curtain at the gate of the courtyard. You shall take the anointment oil and anoint the tabernacle and everything that is in it, sanctify it and all its utensils, and it shall become holy. In synthesis, Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, everything is ready. Now I want you to put everything in place. Like, who made the menorah and the aron and the table and the mizbeach? Who made that? It was Betzalel and Aholiab. It was the special artist. Like the previous parashiot were all about interior designer and architecture. Now is Moshe's turn to build everything together, to put everything after Hashem's directions. And this happening on the 1st of Nisan, that is the inauguration of the Bet HaMikdash. I'm jumping on Pasuk 34, 33. He erected the courtyard all around the tabernacle and the altar, and he emplaced the curtain of the gate of the courtyard. So Moshe completed the work. Everything is done, completed. The cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of Hashem filled the tabernacle. Moshe could not enter the tent of meeting, for the cloud rested upon it, and the glory of Hashem filled the tabernacle. When the cloud was raised up from upon the tabernacle, the children of Israel would embark on all their journeys. If the cloud did not rise up, they would not embark until the day it rose up. For the cloud of Hashem would be on the tabernacle by day, and fire would be on it at night, before the eyes of all of the house of Israel throughout their journeys. It's so important to see how the book of Shemot is ending. How did the book of Shemot begin? Ele Shemot Bnei Israel, these are the names of Bnei Israel, but how does it begin? What is it all about? Slavery. Am Israel are in Egypt, they are enslaved, and it seems to be that the book of Shemot is all about Am Israel and about Yetziat Mitzrayim, Hashem taking us out of Egypt. This is the main subject of the book of Shemot. But if we go back to the moment when Hashem morning, go out of your tent and you look there far from your home, there is the center that is a Mishkan, and there is a cloud permanently on top of the Mishkan. And that cloud represents the presence of Hashem. What a feeling is that? That Hashem is with you. And at every movement that you're going to do depends on Hashem. When the cloud moves, Am Israel moves. When the cloud stops, then the journey means to stop. And Rashi says something very interesting. Rashi says, even when they were encamping, it's called a journey. That's also called a journey, because also when you are still in one place, it's part of your journey. You need to be growing. You need to be thinking about what is my next step. It's a little bit abstract for us to understand, but I think that if we get this idea, in Israel, Medinat Israel, at the beginning of the state, they used to divide the people into secular and religious, right? So the religious were called datiim, and the secular were called at that time chofshiim. What does it mean, chofshi? Free. Like understanding, if you are religious, if you follow the Torah, you don't have freedom, because you follow a set of rules that limits your life. But actually it's not true. When Hashem, like having Hashem among us is usually connected with freedom. That's what we see in the book of Shemot. Hashem is giving us freedom in order to be on top of us as our master instead of Paro. But that's the symbol of freedom. What does it mean that I follow the Torah? What does it mean that I follow the mitzvot? What does it mean? How can that be freedom? I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to do that. Discipline is a form of freedom. Like I am freeing myself from my dependence on my yetzirah, my nature, my impulse. I'm free. Like I see the chocolate cake and I'm free. I am just able to say no. I see in the area of women, arayot, sexuality, a Jewish man that is strong and it's free, he can go around and see and travel, and it's free to decide. I can see this food and I'm free not to eat it because I follow Hashem's commandments. So I heard this idea from Rabbi Chaim Sabato. I think it's beautiful. He says the book of Shemot is about us, Am Israel, becoming free. But it's important to understand what is freedom. It's not only to get rid of the chains of the slavery of Egypt, of Paro, but it's having Hashem among us, having the Anan on top of the Mishkan, that is a permanent, reminder of Hashem's presence, of me making my decisions according to the rules of Hashem. Now, I leave you as an exercise to do at home, but for now you can believe me, one beautiful sentence that repeats itself in our parasha. I didn't count, but I read that it happens 19 times, is Ka'asher Tziva Hashem, as Hashem commandment. Like the Mishkan was done as Hashem commandment. Everything, the Bigdei Kohanim, the clothing of the Kohanim, as Hashem commandment. The ephod, as Hashem commandment. Because, usually we said the Mishkan is not for Hashem. Hashem doesn't need the Mishkan. But once Hashem allows us to make a dwelling place for him, he also tells us how to do it. And it's in general in our life, we see that so much today. There's so many movements in our denominations in the Jewish communities. There is this type of Jews and this type of Jews, and today is express your Judaism the way you feel. I remember when I was taking few classes in social work in Wurzweiler, there was this professor I took, the class was Jewish communities. And it was really, I think that the secret of that class was understanding that eating bagels was also one type of expressing that you are a Jew. Like you can choose. Who is anybody to say this is right or this is wrong? If I like playing music and dancing around the Torah on Shabbat with my organ and my microphone, that's what I feel. It's all about how I feel, how I like it, but not what the parasha is teaching us. When we want to serve Hashem, at least in the area of serving Hashem, it has to be so clear that we have to do it the way Hashem tzivah, the way Hashem wants. It's not about what I like. And usually my choices, and we've seen that unfortunately in history, my patterns or my level of morality, it's different from one from the other, and it doesn't always take to a good place. It's very important to know that we have the truth, and what guides us in life is kasher tzivah Hashem. So we can say chazak, chazak, venit chazek, that we say every time that we finish a chumash. And this chumash, once Hashem in the book of Shemot, is all about Am Yisrael. Here, I took you out of Egypt. I chose you. I gave you the Torah. You are building the Mishkan. All the purpose of taking you out of Egypt is for you to become my people and follow my rules. But now the book that is coming after it, that is a very difficult book to study, the book of Vaikra, it's also, what is the main idea of the book of Vaikra? It's Korbanot, but something more general, because it's not only about Korbanot. It's the book of Kedusha. Veitem Kedoshim ki kadosh ani. Okay, I chose you, I gave you the Torah, you are my chosen people. All of that, for you to be deserving, you need to act bi Kedusha, with holiness. And Kedusha is not only praying or Korbanot. Kedusha is acting with honesty with the other, being a good person, as we have so many mitzvot in Parashat Kedoshim, as we will see. Okay, so this is about the book of Vaikra. I said I'm going to continue a little bit more of halachot that we started last time. For you. We started seeing on last week parasha that spoke about Shabbat, how keeping Shabbat involves many positive things. Before we speak about the prohibitions, I don't know if we're going to do it in this class, but I just wanted you to see how many things that we do and are positive are considered to be Shmirat Shabbat, to be keeping the Shabbat. So last week we ended up speaking about the importance of getting dressed, right? Using beautiful clothing for Shabbat, and we said that the shoes is not necessarily a mitzvah. Only if you have another pair of shoes today, Baruch Hashem, I don't think it's a... But I remember when I go to Israel, some of my family members, and not because they don't have the money, they're just, that's how they live. Much more simplistic. So I think about boys. Some part of my family that they're into the simple way of living, they will have one pair of shoes. The boys, one pair of shoes. Minimalists. They don't have their closet filled with the tens of pairs of shoes. So for Shabbat, what you have to do if you have one pair of shoes, what do you have to do? You have to shine them so you can feel that it's Shabbat. And they have one shirt for Shabbat, a white shirt. So this is how Jews used to live for many generations. Okay, another mitzvah is the same way that we need to wear beautiful clothing for Shabbat and clean the house, we also need to prepare our body for Shabbat. Therefore, our Chachamim say, shemitzvah leitrachetz likrat Shabbat is a mitzvah to get showered before Shabbat. Like, think about times when people didn't take a shower every day, as we do today. Even when I teach about the mikveh and I teach kalot, and we see all the preparations of how to take a shower, we say, like, today is so obvious, people do it every day, but imagine on times when people didn't shower or clean themselves every day, it wasn't normal. So it was a mitzvah. The Jewish people was always, the Jewish communities was always in a, wow, people have been waiting here. The Jewish community has always been in a higher standard of hygiene. Because you have the mitzvot of netilat yadayim, after you come out of the bathroom, in the mornings, few times a day we wash our hands. You have to shower before Shabbat. So it definitely have you in a certain standard of hygiene. הרחצה צריכה להיות במים חמים. And לכבוד Shabbat is a mitzvah. It has to be with hot water, because they clean the body very well. אבל המתרחץ במים קרים או פושרים לא קיים את המצווה. If you take a shower with cold water, this is not a mitzvah, because it's for the sake of cleanliness. ואומנם בעבר, and in the past, when it was difficult to bring water to wash yourself, the mitzvah, literally speaking, to fulfill the mitzvah, was to wash the face, the hands, the feet, and the head, and lachfof et harosh. And whoever could and wanted to do hidur mitzvah, and wanted to do the mitzvah in the highest level, hayu rochatzim et kol haguf b'mayim. They used to do all their body bechamim, in hot water. But today, that we have Baruch Hashem showers and hot water from electricity or gas, whatever, is a mitzvah for every person to take a shower, all his body with hot water. Especially that a person today is used to do it for any social event. So definitely before Shabbat HaMalka, the Queen Malka, יש להתרחץ בצורה המושלמת ביותר. Is a mitzvah to take the shower in the perfect way. Nevertheless, it's important to know that you shouldn't take the shower too close to Shabbat, so you're not going to desecrate the Shabbat. And then all what you are winning to honor the Shabbat, you are losing in that. And if he sees that Shabbat is about to start and the time is very late, it's better not to take the shower than to do Chilul Shabbat. And that's why it's good to plan yourself and to take your shower few hours before Shabbat, and in general, leave the last hours of the week for spiritual preparations in the honor of Shabbat or for resting in order to receive the Shabbat mitoch simcha vanachat, from a place of joy and calmness, and not from a place of tirda and atzbanut, of being so stressed and overwhelmed, and especially not from a place of anger. And I am the first one in this room that needs to work very hard on this. Really. Like, I mean, we don't realize whenever we have all the preparations for Shabbat, especially in the winter days that are very short days, and we are in the last 2 hours and we see that we're not done, we have guests, and especially if you don't have help that day, how overwhelmed we become, how much Rabbanit Riva Lapidot Zichronah Livracha, one of my teachers, she used to tell us, the Yetzer Hara has a special place to celebrate on Fridays. Like, it really comes to make you fight with your husband, scream at your children, really fail in your midot, in your behaviors. So how do we solve this? With planning, with preparation, with organization, with not leaving everything to the end. And she would really recommend having the minhag, I never do that, of on Friday finishing early and going to rest. Taking, let's say if Shabbat is at 4, take a shower at 2 and just go and relax. Because whenever it's time for Adlakat Nerot, you come with such a ninochut, with such a peace of mind that is going to affect even the way we light the candles and the way we feel about Knisat Shabbat. So now he's speaking about shaving for men and preparation of the house, to clean, to set the table, to prepare the chairs around it. That's important. Bederech klal, usually people think that kedusha, that holiness, is uncovered or is expressed only on things that are spiritual. Like, where do you think that there is kedusha? Tefillah, limud Torah, mesirut nefesh, to do mitzvot, like you really do things with sacrifice. And we think that things that relate to the body, like eating and drinking, are opposite to the uplifting spirituality. But Ramchal explains, okay, no, I'm going to skip that. But Shabbat is coming and teaching us that we can sanctify also the material things. And Kedusha can happen and can be expressed with a good, pleasurable eating, with beautiful clothing, with an organized and clean house. And that's how it really comes to a complete place, when the Kedusha is expressed also in the spirituality and also in the material. That's what I explained to you last time. That's why we say on Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, that there is peace between spirituality and materialism. And there is a beautiful midrash that Chachamim tell us in regards to Shabbat, with angels. Everybody must know this. Amru Chazal in Masechet Shabbat, Shne malachi hashalet melavim lo le'adam b'erev Shabbat mibet hakneset lebeito. There are 2 angels that come with the person from the Bet HaKnesset to his house. Now, is this exactly literally? What if I'm alone and nobody went to the Beit Knesset in my family. So it's not exactly happening only with the man that goes to the Beit Knesset. It symbolizes how Shabbat has to enter. So two angels come with the man, Echad Tov ve'Echad Ra. One is good and one is bad. And when he comes to his house, this man that came from the sea, now he comes to his house, and then the angel sees there is the table is set, the beds are done, everything looks beautiful, the candle is lit. The good angel would say, Yehi Ratzon shetehe leShabbat acheret ken. He blesses this family. I bless you that next Shabbat will be the same. And the opposite happens. If the house is all messy and the table is not set and the candles are not there, the malach, I'm sorry, and when he says that, the bad angel has to say, Amen. Like even that he doesn't like it, okay, Amen. And if the opposite happens, the bad angel would say, may next week be the same. And the good angel, without even wanting, would say, Amen. Of course, this is a symbolism. It's not something that happens for real. But what does it mean? It means that whenever we get ourselves, we bring ourselves to make a beautiful Shabbat, automatically we will want to have it next Shabbat. It will happen. And that's how good things happen. The habits are created when you do it once and you enjoy it, and then you will want to do it again, and then perhaps you will get a good word from your children. Mom, I love that you made halot, or this food is amazing, or you feel so good about it. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that's going to become the pattern in your house. Okay? המצוות להשתתף בהכנות השבת. 5 more minutes and I'm done. There are some mitzvot to participate in the preparation of Shabbat. In the Torah it says, והיה ביום השישי, והכינו את אשר יביאו. This is in regards to the man. It says on Friday, they would prepare what they brought for Shabbat. So from here, we learn there is a mitzvah to prepare for Shabbat, like what we know and we do, and it's obvious that every Baruch Hashem Mashadi home on Friday is preparing for Shabbat. We are fulfilling a mitzvah of Shabbat. A mitzvah hazo hi mitzvah lechol adam, and this is a mitzvah for everybody, for the woman, for the husband, for the children. This is not enough that you have an amazing cleaning lady, an amazing cook that you hire, that you can just tell her, prepare Shabbat for us, and she will do it for you. Or for example, if you go to a Shabbaton, and you are a host, you are a guest, everything is done for you. אבל כל אדם צריך להשתדל להכין משהו לשבת. You still need to make an effort to prepare something in honor of Shabbat. Even if that person was very rich and honorable, that has many people serving him, that prepare all of his needs, and during the week doesn't move one finger because you are used to be served. Even in that case, צריך להשתדל לעשות משהו לכבוד שבת עצמו. It's very important to make an effort to prepare something for Shabbat. And he shouldn't say, no, I'm a very important person. How will I bother myself to do this simple action? This is not for my kavod, but he has to know, this is your kavod, to prepare yourself for Shabbat, to honor the Shabbat. Even a person that is busy and is involved in Torah study, a rabbi, a great Talmid Chacham, and others will prepare the Shabbat for him. Nevertheless, he has to himself participate somehow in the preparations in the honor of Shabbat. And here are a few stories of the Talmud, beautiful stories. Mesupar Talmud, in the Talmud is told to us al Gedolei Israel v'nichbedei adorot, about Gedolei Israel, many great people of Am Israel, and very honorable people, that they would participate in the preparations of Shabbat. Al Rav Chazda Mesupar, for example, about Rav Chazda was told to us, שהיה מחתך את הירקות דק דק לקראת שבת. He used to prepare the salad, Israeli salad. He would cut the yerakot, the vegetables, very, very thin before Shabbat. And Rabba and Rabbi Yosef היו מבקעים את העצים לצורך האש שבתנור. We're speaking about great rabbanim from the Talmud. Rabba and Rabbi Yosef, they used to go and cut the wood to have the fire to cook and to get warm. רבי זרע היה מדליק את האש שבה היו מבשלים את תבשילי השבת. Used to come home and prepare the fire for the wife or for the servants to be able to prepare the food for Shabbat. And Rav Nachman, he's the best, I like him. Rav Nachman היה מנקה את הבית, used to clean the house, מכניס את הרהיטים לצורך השבת, would prepare the furniture in the honor of Shabbat. הוא מפנה את רהיטי החול. That's so interesting. They had special furniture for Shabbat. He would bring it for Shabbat and remove the one that was for the rest of the week. So we know that they were very, very honorable, and they still did it. Rab and Rabbi Yosef were the Rashi Yeshivot in Babel, and in those places, in those times, they were very, very busy and with big responsibilities, and still they did that. Okay, I'm going to finish here. I would want to receive in my chat your opinion. If you want us to do more halachot every shiur, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or we just skip our parasha class the way it is. So thank you very much. This class is over. I'm going to take a breath.